Good afternoon, everyone. I am here to present on why we should add a varsity soccer team, not only a men's team, but also a women's team at the high school level. Because of Title IX, we would need both, and the numbers would have to be very similar. I'm just going to show a spreadsheet on one side. I'm just going to show us the boys' side because the numbers would be just about the same or very similar. So I'm going to share my screen here. So if you see, I put a little bit of a I have a little bit of a budget that's pretty rough that I've gotten from other schools, especially from Michigan, where one school that I get done most of my research from was Troy Athens High School, and they're a big soccer school that probably creates positive revenue through sports through their soccer program. But I wanted to make it a little more realistic because most high school sports do not make much revenue, and so here we go. If you look right here, we got the head coaching salary would be about $10,000. We're going to do our best to give it to a teacher in the district, and the assistant coach's salary they can split it up however they'd like. With running it by me with $5,000, whether they want to give it to one or two different people. Uniforms, this will be a one-time cost. I'm really just trying to do the expenses for our first year. The expenses will go down a little bit per year, especially after we start to learn different stuff. And I'll skip down really quick to field maintenance for a good example. Um, the company that I met with said they'd do it for $200, and we do it the night before every single game. That would be the best way to keep costs down. Um, I'm not sure if that's our best price or the worst price or the best price, but that's something that we would find out through the first year and possibly even make a switch halfway through the year if we needed to. Um, Next, I mean, you have practice gear and uniforms that are 1 year cost, hopefully, and after that, you'd have to use your actual budget to figure that out for the coach's sake. Soccer balls will be a yearly um, expense as they want new soccer balls. Might not need 20 of them every year, but depending on what they fundraise and how much money they have in their budget, they can make that happen. Officials, that there's one official and then there's two line judges. It rounds out to $100 for all three, 50 for the head official, and then 25 each for the line judges. I already talked about the field maintenance and gatekeepers. Obviously, we need these because we're going to be charging for attendance, which would be great to bring the community into our over to our fields even more. Notice how I don't have anything about building a soccer field because we would just use our football field and plan practices and games around it. That's how I've seen many other schools do it. It's a great way to save costs and help us out. Next, obviously, the event supervisor will only need one. It won't be huge events like we've seen in our football programs. It'll only need one person. Maybe for a rivalry game, we might sneak another one in there just in case. But even me as the athletic director could step in and do that, as I'll be at almost every single game. PA worker only need one of those, and our concession stand workers will have two, for one making food and one taking money and all of that good stuff. And hopefully, I mean, that's what we pay them, but we also do have a lot of volunteers that can help us as well. Um, these are obviously worst case scenarios and money wise. So, and then you can see fundraising. Um, Most of our programs are around the 10 to 15,000 range. So I put $15,000 the question mark, $10,000 for ticket sales. I mean, that's not crazy with 20 games, and even possibly more depending on if they make playoffs. That number could even go higher. And next we have the pay to play for roughly about 20 athletes. Paying $50 will be about 1,000. It'll add up to about $1,000 for the program to keep. And so if you figure out the numbers, we're at a deficit about, or if we didn't make any money, it'd be $30,100 we'd be losing. But once you calculate it, we're only losing about $4,100. Now, I would expect, especially for this first year, could be different. It'll be interesting to really dive into it and look. But I would expect once we get the program up and running, we would have about 25 to 30 students trying out for each team every year. That's for men's freshman JV varsity and the women's program, which would be freshman JV and varsity as well. And I mean, that's a lot of students for us to really um, get outside and get the positive effects of that. And I think that's the biggest thing as we're trying to add new sports is, I mean, outdoor sports has a lot of benefits with being on the sun, playing with friends, working hard, improving. Um, there's just so it's not about the losing $4,000. It's more about the experience of our students and our student athletes. And if it was about making the money for the school or the school district, I mean, most high schools and any schools wouldn't probably have athletic teams. So that's how I feel about us having a soccer program. And I hope that you take us into serious consideration and hopefully we can discuss this.